Good afternoon, everybody. I don't think there's anything particularly unique about 2010 into 2011. The regulations change, as you've said, many years. Season gets marginally longer. We're now racing through till the middle of November, and our development season is long. You know, we expect to be competing in the championship and fighting to the last race to win that championship, and we were again competing just like that this year. It does make the logistics of a turnaround tight, but we're used to that. We have tried and tested ways of peeling resource off and making sure that we can prepare next year's car. But it's still 11,000 parts in about 3.5 month time to market, which is eye-watering by most industrial standards. But we're used to that. It's just a big logistics exercise.
Tim, Paddy, do you want to add anything to that? Your biggest challenges for this year's car?
Well, the reintroduction of the KERS hybrid has been a big project. We did it before in 2009. We had an excellent system from Mercedes-Benz. But we've had another go at it, repackaged that for the new car, learned some lessons from the previous occasion, and we're very happy with what we've done on that.
Tim, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, there are some subtle changes to the aerodynamic regulations, which, if you look at the car from the outside, it doesn't look dramatically different, but the change to the diffuser at the back of the car results in quite a large performance loss aerodynamically, and that presents some major challenges trying to recover the rear downforce levels back to where we were in 2010. And that, as well as getting to grips with a new tyre supplier, presents quite some significant challenges.
I'm sure we'll come on to that through the questions early on. But Jonathan, the three engineering directors that we have here today, there's 62 years of McLaren experience between them. I say they are all here. Neale Lowe is here as well in the audience. But how important is it to you having a blend of youth and experience in the design team?
Yes, when I heard that 62 years this morning, we were looking at each other thinking how old we felt. And we figured that Neale has most of that experience, which is good. I think for any business, of course, it's important that there is a successive generations of talent coming through the organisation. And at McLaren, we've consistently said that we have strength and committed to strength and depth in technical and in the management organisation. I think that's why the team has been so successful over since the 1960s, and it will go on being successful beyond this current generation of management and technical people. But there's a great temptation there to think about that from an age perspective, and I think what's really important is the diversity of ideas and the innovation that sits behind it. If you look at our technical team, just the technical team, then the men and women that we have, there are 23 different nationalities of engineers and scientists working in that team. Whether some of them are experienced inside Formula One, some are new to Formula One. But that richness of ideas and that energy, coupled with the experience and the confidence that you can get from a team that's worked together for a long period of time, is just a vital part of keeping the organisation healthy.
Thank you, Jonathan. Paddy, and I'm going to turn to you, our newly appointed technical director. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
We've been talking about already a lot of new rules for 2011, but how challenging has it been to try and regain the downforce that has been lost? And what was it, and how easy was it for you to decide how to put your team focusing on that area?
Well, as you say, Mark, aerodynamics is always the big area that we need to keep pushing. It's an area that historically has delivered the most lap time, particularly in an era of frozen engine rules. So we had another big change, as Tim mentioned, particularly on the diffuser, which took a lot of downforce out of the rear of the car. So we've challenged ourselves to trying to recover as much of the loss as possible through this winter period. That's very tough. I think all the teams would admit the same. We think we've come up with some good ideas on that. Some of them you can see on the car. The side pod solution is quite unique. It's given us a sort of new envelope to drive performance into the rear end of the car. So that's been very satisfying to see the team come up with these ideas. As Martin mentioned, keep thinking out of the box. If you actually look at the figures and compare, the kind of performance we get out of a car aerodynamically these days with the restrictions that exist, and compare where we were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's really quite staggering what can be driven out of such a limited set of volumes compared to what existed in the past. And that's just the outcome of hard industry and imaginative thinking. So it's great.
Thank you, Paddy. Tim, I'm going to come to you now. Firstly, congratulations to you too with your appointment as Engineering Director. You've been really intimately involved with the specification and the design of the 26. What are your immediate priorities going into the next tests next week in Jerez and the two thereafter?
Yes, thank you. As we've mentioned already, there have been several challenges forced upon us through regulation changes, and our main focus over the next two tests will be evaluating the new car configuration and making sure we've delivered the performance to expectations. So aerodynamically, then the rear diffuser changes is something that we have to evaluate. We have to evaluate KERS and make sure that the KERS is performing to expectations. And we have to get to grips with the Pirelli tyres and the balance of the car and how to exploit the most out of Pirelli tyres. So over the next two tests, Jerez and Barcelona, we'll be concentrating on evaluating the performance of the car. By the time we get to Bahrain, then the focus will change on delivering a significant performance upgrade package to the car, with a view to obviously going into the Bahrain race with the most performant car that we can.
Thank you, Tim. We're now going to take some opportunity to open up to the floor.